Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. So, one thing that coders can be guilty of is overthinking. And that was my problem this evening. So, uh, originally, I was supposed to do my episode about evaluation and management. What I wanted to talk about today was like the broad strokes of evaluation and management. When I was sitting down and writing it out, it was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to go over, even if I just do a quick broad stroke video before I break it down. So I said, okay, I had to like stop and rethink, like, how am I going to do this? Because I think it's important to have a very good teacher when you're learning evaluation and management. Evaluation and management is not hard, okay? I will say this up front right now. It is not hard. And if somebody says, oh, yes, it is, okay. Here's the thing. When I was in school, I went through a self-paced program. So basically, when I went, it was just like I sat at a computer, and then, maybe weekly, the school had like seminars and things like that I could go to. So I would go to those, but for the most part, everything was self-paced. So I was doing that, and when it came to the evaluation and management portion of the course, they warned me. They said, when you get into this course, people have been failing this course left and right. So just make sure that you go slow and you pay attention. So I said, okay, well, here's the thing. I had been going through the school rapid fire. I mean, I was just flying through the school because I set a record for getting done with the program. And because I wanted to get out into the real world. That was my whole goal, was to get out into the real world. I didn't want to have to work minimum wage anymore. I was working 2 jobs, and I was just trying to make ends meet. And I was just tired of it. I wanted to get into medical coding. So when they told me that, I said, well, I am not going to fail this portion of the course, because every time you passed a course, you got your new books. Well, I am a book freak and I love new books. Well, that was always my motivation to get to the next course, But so that I could cement the fact that I was going to pass the evaluation and management course the first time, I literally read, because they gave us a book about that thick, and don't ask me how many pages it had, but I know it was about that thick. And they had given us this book. I literally read that book cover to cover, because I was serious about passing that course the first time. I was not going to slow down, because there was something that, was being missed on the teaching. And this evaluation and management is something very, very detailed to learn on your own, okay? Because it's like a lot of, this level, this level, this level, and then there's 1995 guidelines, and there's 1997 guidelines, and then you have to learn about the organ systems, and you got to learn about these points, and then you got to learn about medical decision making. So there's all of these components that go into evaluation and management. I read that book cover to cover, and when I was in, like a study lab, and people were seeing me do this, they were like, why are you doing that? They go, we're not supposed to do that. All we have to do is a lesson. I said, exactly. And that's the problem right there. I said, everybody's just doing the lesson. And how many times have you been through the course already? Well, that's not fair. This is the second time and they don't really explain. Exactly. So if they're not explaining it, then you have to be the one to go above and beyond to try to figure it out yourself. So in order for me to learn anything, I am going to take anything and everything I can when it comes to whatever topic it is. And in this case, it was evaluation and management. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to learn as much as I can. And I'm going to ask questions whenever I do have them. So I got through in the first try. I also passed my certification exam the first try. And I was the only one in my class of people that took it at the same time to pass the first time. When you're dedicated to whatever you're doing, these are the results. You have to be able to be willing to put the time in, okay? And so that was the thing. And, other people were like, wow, you really read the whole book cover to cover? Yeah. Sometimes you just have to do that, because every single question you could have possibly had is in that book. And even though they're like, they give you a bunch of questions and things like that, all the detail stuff is in between those questions. So it helps. What I'm going to do is I have a slide deck that I did for my providers, and where I broke down evaluation and management. So I'm going to remember to get it from the office tomorrow and bring it, and that's what I will present tomorrow, because this way you guys can see sort of how I, how I do a slide deck, even though I won't have it. I'm not that fancy yet to have it on the video. So, but I will be talking through it. So this way you guys can get a very broad, introduction from me into evaluation and management. And then we can go on by breaking it down and asking questions and things like that. So be sure that if you do have a question, submit it, so that way I can either address it on the next video or I can address it on Q&A Tuesday. That's always another way to go. I may, depending on how many questions I get about evaluation and management, I may actually do just a Q&A about evaluation and management separate from Q&A Tuesday, which I think would be good, because if you're looking through the videos, it'll be more organized. So I guess depending, I can answer questions specifically about evaluation and management. So a lot of these things that I do, like Q&A Tuesday and Quiz Friday and Answer Monday, these are all born out of our conversation. So whenever I have a viewer that suggests something, which I have one viewer that suggested Quiz Friday, and I've been doing it ever since, and so it's hugely successful. I get lots of emails about it. And again, these quizzes are not official. It is just me just sort of sharing my knowledge as a medical coder and how I look up things. And yes, I've been caught a couple of times on like selecting the wrong code, because I am human, and so whenever I do, I always make sure I go back and update the description so that the correct answer is in there. But I own my mistakes, and it's fine. I'm glad that people are watching the videos, and there's good feedback, and they can see, because sometimes you get coder fatigue and I'm going too fast. So that has a lot to do with it too. Like I said, I'm human, so oops. Anyway, but I try to make sure that everything is correct when I'm giving it to you guys, because like I said, it's important to get good resources for whatever you're doing. So, and paying attention to that detail. So that's really awesome. I'm really glad to see, especially when there's new people to the field that are paying very close attention to detail. That is something that you want to harness. That is a skill that you really want to have, because it will be helpful in this field. So aside from the E&M talk, I just sort of wanted to kind of catch you guys up on what's been going on as well. I did get another email from, actually I got a couple of emails from people who are wanting to get back into medical coding after getting their certification, but they haven't had a chance to really start applying. And one of the concerns was that they were going to forget how to code. So I suppose if you've been away from it for a little bit, it is possible to forget some things, but the fundamentals of how to code, it's like riding a bike, right? Because to look up stuff in the index, and then to look it up in the tabular after, and those kinds of things. If you find yourself in this boat where it's been a while since you've coded, but you have your certification, and you don't want to lose your skill, just watch Quiz Friday. So at least this way you can get some practice in. There's also your association publications, whether you are with AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, or with AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders. Both associations have publications that have like little quizzes in them as well, that you can pay for continuing education units. So that's just something that you can sort of use to practice and make sure that you stay on top of your coding skills. Never lose that skill if you've got speed right now looking up codes in the book. Don't lose that skill. Even if you use an encoder, do not lose your skill. That is one of the things that I regret losing. I've lost my skill as far as speed, looking up speed codes quickly in the book. I'm rusty. I mean, I will say, but thanks to me doing my own quiz writing, I will look up the codes in the book now. So rather than just run them through the encoder, and sometimes I do run them through the encoder because it just depends on, it's a time thing, and I don't have time to look them up in the book. But majority of the quiz Fridays, I have been looking it up in the book. And I notice when I start doing shortcuts, like going through the encoder, that's when I start making mistakes. So, my bad. But anyway, yeah, that's one of the things that has helped me. So I'm starting to pick up speed again. But I'm not as fast right now as I was in the beginning. So that's something that I really want to work on. But like I said, even if you are using the encoder now, don't lose your skill on looking up codes quickly in the book, okay? Because when you do go take another certification exam, you will have to have that speed because you have to use your book. You cannot use an encoder when you are taking an exam. So that was that. And then finally, I talk about the importance of communication a lot, and I sent out a coding tip to my orthosurgeons last week about it was a coding clinic that I saw that affected them, okay, because they do a lot of knee arthroscopies, and they were talking about, this particular one was talking about loose body removal, okay. And so I sent it out to them, and I was telling them, I was breaking it down about this coding clinic and where they could find it. And I am not the surgery coder at the hospital, but I can do surgeries. I've coded surgeries before. But the communication thing comes into play when, yes, it's not my lane to talk about surgeries, but these are my providers that are, documenting their own surgeries. And I am... Whenever they talk about us coders at work and they say, well, coding tip of the week, I think I'm the only one who does one because everybody else is like, what are you doing? So I'm pretty much the only one that does it for my providers. The other coders do talk to their providers, but they don't do coding tip of the week like I do. So, I mean, that's okay. Everybody has their own style, but I know that the surgery coder doesn't do this. So it's just like, okay, well, I saw it. So let me go ahead and share this information. Even though I don't do the surgery coding, I wanted to make sure that they were documenting like they should, because if they are doing loose body removal, this is important to document correctly. So I had shared this information, and when I told them about it, because I had a meeting with them last week, and they were like, oh, yes. They go, we didn't know that. Okay, well, now you know. Dr. X was not in that meeting. So I did happen to catch him the other day, and I talked to him, and because usually he's really good about responding back to emails, but this particular one, I don't know if it was because I had labeled it Coding Tip of the Week, and he was just taking his time reading it, but it had been a couple of weeks now, and so I was just like, okay, well, let me make sure that he did get it, rather than it, sort of, oh, I forgot to read that because he was doing surgeries this week. So I told him, I said, did you get a chance to look at that one email? He's like, what email? And so I was telling him about the surgeries and the loose body removal. He's like, I didn't know that. He's like, okay, well, I will make sure that I pay attention to that one. So I was like, okay. So it's important to keep that communication up. And like I said, I know I'm supposed to stay in my lane, but at the same time, if there's new information that's coming out, it's worth sharing. So, and I am one of those ones that will share information anyway. So, because we're all one team, and that is the whole thing about it. And just because one person doesn't do it doesn't mean that you can't do it. If you find an article that you think could be beneficial to your providers, or if you find out information that you know could be beneficial to other coders, share the information. Sometimes people, especially other coders, they will, sometimes they're saying, oh, they kind of want to get into this sort of same way of doing things, and they just kind of don't want to listen to new things. But in order to stay on the cutting edge, and make sure that you are always educated at all times, be willing to listen to other people, especially when they have a resource in front of you. It's not like I'm just going around saying, hey, I'm Blue and I want you to do it this way. No, I I usually have an article or something that says, hey guys, did you hear about this? So that's what I do. And that's just how I roll. So, but yes, it's always important to communicate. Okay. And if something is not clear if you're coding something and it's not clear, whatever the provider is documenting, and you don't quite understand what they're saying, ask them. Okay. Because like I said, a lot of times when you are working on developing a good relationship with your providers, it takes one person to break the ice and say hello. And so sometimes I've heard that with a lot of coders before too, that they get really shy and they don't want to talk to their providers because they just don't think that they want to talk to them. I used to think the same thing. And then until I got to talking with Dr. X, and that was how I started communicating better, or taking a more proactive approach with being more open to communication. So just some food for thought for today. But yes, tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and bring that slideshow and then sort of talk you guys through it. If you are having any other issues with evaluation and management, a very good website, which I will leave down in the description box. It's on another video, helpful websites for medical coders. But I will include that link down below, EM University. It's very good. It talks a lot about, they have a free section that talks about the breakdown of evaluation and management. And if you are just, a new coder, or if you are trying to brush up on your skills, even as an established coder, this is a very good, very resourceful website. So just some information out there. So anyway, I will go ahead and wrap this up. But tomorrow, yes, the slideshow. And if you have any questions for Q&A Tuesday, let me know and comment below, or shoot me an email, which I will include my email address down in the description box below. All right, so if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. All right, I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.